Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful people. This is video 2 of 2. And this is the midweek hump, baby. Midweek hump. And you are looking absolutely fan-bloody-tastic. Fantastic. Have you done something to your hair? You have. I haven't. My hair's a mess. I've had a hat hair all day. See, I'm not bald. For those of you who think I wear a hat because I'm bald. No, I'm not. 43 and got a full head of hair that I have to cut every friggin' week or I look like cousin friggin' it. But anyway, we're talking about Ethan Chapin because a load of you have reached out recently. It's been an ongoing thing, actually, not like just recently, but consistently reach out about Ethan Chapin because what a lot of you feel is that this couldn't have been one person who did this crime because you feel that Ethan Chapin would have been a formidable adversary in this situation. And we're going to touch on something. And what I will say is there's going to be a bit of a trigger warning. We're not going to go into like graphic detail, but we are ultimately talking about a confrontation that leads to the death of Ethan Chapin because we know how this story panned out. But hopefully by just looking at it and talking about it briefly, we will have a better understanding of what potentially happened and the confusion, the things that lead you into a position where you think something doesn't sit right here. So let's look at the crime itself and how we feel this played out and what I believe the vast majority of people think happened. Now look, somebody comes into the house and they come in and they go upstairs. Now, Steve Gonsalves throws a bit of a curveball because he turns around and he says they didn't have to go upstairs. Now, I wonder whether he said that because he was privy to information that from a law enforcement perspective, they thought that Ethan and Xana were attacked first. Like, we will not know this until the court case actually happens. We won't know that. But that was the only thing that made sense to me in that why would Steve Gonsalves say they didn't have to go upstairs? That to me, and again, it might mean nothing, might mean absolutely nothing, but the only thing that made sense to me is if Steve Gonsalves had some form of information that would lead you to believe that the murders happened downstairs first. So if this was about someone just wanting to kill somebody, this was done. They didn't have to go upstairs and do any more. This was done on that floor, and they could have in fact gone across the hall, gone into another room, and done it again. The fact that they'd perhaps started at that room, gone past another room, and then gone upstairs, and then come down and gone past that again, that would raise more questions. If you actually believe that Ethan and Xana were the first victims, then that raises huge questions because it makes you wonder why the order was done in with which it was. Maddie makes sense. Maddie helps you process this in a way that you can turn around and say, well, he was obsessed with Maddie. He was obsessed with Maddie, he was reading stuff online, looking at her pictures, liking her pictures, and he knew because he was looking at the window outside the house and he knew where the room was, so he went into the house straight upstairs, done the crime, and then what caught him off guard was Kaylee being there. Now, Kaylee's car was outside and so was Ethan's car outside, so I don't know whether someone would have entered the house without knowing that. Who knows? Maybe they were just naive enough to think that this house on a night where they'd been out drinking or whatever, there was just going to be the same number of people in this house that there always is. But this was a party house. See, I digress, but things just don't sit right with someone entering in this house just seemingly thinking that there would be 2 or 3 people in it. It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, let's go back. So they go upstairs, caught off guard by Kaylee being there, and this turns into an utter clusterfuck that results in the nose sheath being left there. That's what the majority of people who have Bryan Kohberger pinned, that's the way in which they believe this happened. And the noise, we know that it seemingly roused Dylan, but that seems to have been downplayed to almost be like, well, I didn't call 911 or anything because it weren't bad enough. I just thought that they were playing about with the dog. But Ethan must have thought something different. Ethan and or Xana. Because I think to myself, right, So Dylan is not a small lad. He's athletic, he's 6 foot plus, and yes, I believe he could put up a bit of a fight. So imagine the perpetrator comes down the stairs from Kaylee and Maddie upstairs. So then what happens? Do they not go past Dylan and then go past Dylan's room and then head out? No, they don't. But why don't they? That's the important question. Why do they not, at that point, just continue to walk around the corner and walk out at that point? What spurns them to go round the corner and up towards Xana and Ethan's room? Or what would be Xana's room, not Ethan. You could argue that this person just thinks that Xana's in the room on her own. And is it, in fact, Ethan who throws the spanner in the works? Because he doesn't expect Ethan to be there. And there lies the issue, because we've got this point where someone says, I'm here to help you. That's this piece of information hurts the case in a manner with which you think to yourself, where does that fit in? Now, is it that the person has come down the stairs, they've bumped into either Xana or Ethan, and they've turned around and said, don't worry, I'm here to help you? And think how that would then play out. Think how that would play out if someone has just walked down the stairs. Bearing in mind, we know that by the time they come down the stairs, the knife sheath is upstairs. So this person's got, we believe, a K-bar knife in their hand. And they're standing at the bottom of the stairs. They've heard a load of commotion, enough to bring them out. And you've got somebody standing there with a K-bar knife, and they could turn around and say, don't worry, I'm here to help. Then what happens? Now, does this turn into, oh my God, thank you for being here to help us? Or do they stand there in silence? Or does someone fucking freak out and is like, oh my God? Because again, this is all happening outside Dylan Mortenson's door. It's all happening outside the door, and people can't understand why people are then thinking to themselves, this just doesn't make sense. Because I think to myself, if I was Ethan and I'm standing there and I see this person standing in my house, and you've got two ways that this is going to go. This is fight or flight, isn't it? And if this person's in the way of flight, then you've got fight left. He could have got Xana and gone back to his room and locked the door. We knew Xana's room had a lock on the door. So if you're standing this side and the person's in front of you and your room is behind you, why do you just not retreat back to your room and get back in the room and lock the door and barricade the door and call 911 again? Why does nobody call 911? Just say Ethan is out. He has come out to see what, my missus is saying. She'll hear a noise. I'm sure she wants to get me bumped off because she'll hear something and she'll be like, go and have a look. Go and have a look. There's a noise downstairs. One night, the bathroom light failed and it was flickering like a fucking strobe. But it looked like someone was going around the house with a torch. She wakes me up. First of all, nearly gives me an absolute heart attack because you don't wake me up going, hello. It's like, get up. There's people in the house. I wake up and see this lights and all that flashing. And then I find myself just on autopilot going out the room in your pants, and you're thinking, what am I actually going to do if there are people in the house? Anyway, I look back on that and think that now. But this situation, I could see Xana saying, there's noises. Ethan, go and have a look. And then he comes across this person. Fight or flight. Again, flight would have been back to the room, lock the door. There's someone in the house. They've got a knife in their hand. Call 911. Don't understand why that doesn't happen. So then I'm thinking to myself, so this must be just fight then. So he goes in, but then I think to myself, right, so maybe that's not what happened. Maybe Xana went out of the room. Was she going to get the DoorDash, and did this person catch her while she was going to get the DoorDash and caught her in a situation where she's out in the hallway? But then I think, then there'd be stuff in the hallway. There would be stuff dragged out throughout the house, and we're led to believe that this was just in the room. This is the bit that throws me completely. I don't understand why this person would have gone upstairs, done what they did, and then they come back downstairs, and then instead of leaving, they go physically to Xana's room. It leads me to believe that was there more than just one target? Was there more to it? And you can imagine someone knocking on the door, and then somebody opens the door, and that's when you then in a situation where they're left where they can't speak. We're led to believe that Ethan was by the door, right by the door, to the point where they couldn't open the door. They had to force the door open. And in my eyes, I see it that this person came down the stairs and went to the room, physically went to the room. That would excuse Dylan to a degree. Because if they had come out of the room and there was an altercation outside her room, or someone shouted or anything like that, surely she would have heard it. Surely she would have heard it. I'm trying to at least alleviate some of that fault, if you like, on her not calling 911 by the fact that did this person go upstairs and do what they did upstairs, and did Dylan just hear what she heard and thought it was the dog? But then you've got to consider this person then comes down quietly and they purposefully go past her room and go heading towards Anna's room. Why do they not go to Dylan's room? Why do they go past that room? Why do they head to her room? But they head to her room, they knock on the door, and when the door is opened, it's a quick, a strike to the neck area that would render them unable to speak. To be fair, if Anna is then laying in a bed, if she's on her phone, maybe she doesn't know what's happened, and that then leads the perpetrator to come straight in the house and attack her very quickly. You don't know. I'm trying to ascertain how this could have happened with minimal noise, nobody screaming out, nobody shouting, and that to me is the only way. That Ethan was caught off guard. And how would he have been caught off guard if he's come out of the room to see what's going on because they can hear noise? I believe the only way he could have been caught off guard is if someone was already in the house, or somebody physically went to that door and knocked on the door. And that would also overcome the issue that we've had with, we know that they had a lock on their door, so why weren't their door locked? Maybe someone just literally knocked on the door. Ethan opens it and he takes a strike. And is that why he's then left in the doorway? And that is why there is difficulty by Hunter to get into that room, because the Ethan perished in the doorway. The door is then shut and he is behind the door where he fell. Let me know down below. Obviously, this is all speculation and spitball. We don't know. But a lot of you reached out and you said to me that could this have been done? You don't think this could have been done by one person because of Ethan. And what I'm trying to say is, look, even though I am an advocate for there is likely more than one person in this crime, because it would have made it easier, or at least somebody in the background given intel into what was going on in this house, I'm open to that. I would also like to point out that this crime very well could have been done by one person, if it was done right. Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.